She calls a random number at 3 a.m. but the heart-stopping stranger on the line is a billionaire. The clock blinked 3 a.m. A ghostly hour when shadows danced with doubt. Jess, restless and grappling with her fading dreams, felt the urge to do something reckless. So in a fit of wild spontaneity, she picked up her phone and dialed a random number, heart racing with every beep. What was she expecting? Maybe a prank, maybe nothing. But when a voice rasped back, smooth and intoxicating, she froze. "Hello?" it said, deep and rich, wrapping around her like a warm hug. His voice echoed off the walls of her dimly lit room, causing her to shiver. It was more than just a voice. It was seductive, like a dark promise. Who was this stranger? Her fingers trembled against the cool screen. She fought the urge to hang up. There was something about him. An electric charge that sent her heart thumping in rhythm with the whispers of the night. "You're the one who called me," he continued, unmistakably amused. "What do you want?" Her mind raced. How had she gotten here? Who was this man on the other end? The silence of the night suddenly felt oppressive. She sensed an intensity that almost burned. He was no ordinary person, that much was clear. Was he a genuine stranger or something far more sinister? Outside, a cat yowled, shattering the stillness. Jess glanced nervously toward the window, her pulse quickening. She imagined him on the other end, watching her, a $1,000,000 grin on his face, calculating her next move. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with a deep breath. She tightened her grip on the phone and asked, "Who are you?" His laugh echoed, low and dangerous, as if he enjoyed the suspense too much. "Let us just say I'm someone who can change your life. If you're ready." Ready? An unsettling mix of fear and curiosity gripped her. What did he mean? What could he possibly want with her? It felt like she was standing at the edge of an irreversible leap into the unknown. But deep down, something sparked a flicker of hope. "Can I trust you?" she whispered, anxiety curling around her stomach. His pause felt eternal, stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. "That depends on what you're willing to risk." Her breath hitched. The stakes were rising, and she felt herself drawn deeper into a web she didn't understand. What could a billionaire, a man shrouded in mystery, possibly want with a simple girl like her? Would she plunge into the darkness of this call, or find a glimmer of light in the chaos? As the line crackled ominously, she knew her life would never be the same again. Jess felt the words linger in the air like a heavy fog, suffocating yet intoxicating. "What am I willing to risk?" she echoed, her throat dry as a desert. All sorts of thoughts raced through her mind. Her mundane life flashed before her eyes, days spent stacking shelves at the grocery store, losing herself in dreams that felt forever out of reach. The stranger's voice broke through her haze, smooth and deliberate. "Risk is an interesting word, isn't it? It can mean the difference between safety and the thrill of serendipity," he said, a hint of mischief threading through his tone. "Serendipity?" she repeated, half lost. She gripped the phone tighter, as if it were a lifeline. "What do you mean? What do you want from me?" "Let us play a little game," he said, his voice lowering, almost conspiratorial. "One that could change both our lives. Tell me, are you satisfied with your current existence?" Hesitation prickled at her. Satisfaction? It was a word that felt foreign these days, like something she used to aspire to but had long given up on. "No," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He chuckled darkly. "Good. Then perhaps you're already halfway there." Jess felt her heart thumping wildly in her chest. "Halfway where?" she pressed, a mix of excitement and fear making her pulse race. "I'm offering you a chance, Jess. A chance to step into a world that's hidden from ordinary eyes. You and we could help each other. Think of it as an adventure." The flourish in his voice made her shiver with apprehension. Adventure? Wasn't life an adventure already? Or a never-ending cycle of mundane tasks? But what did he know about her life? What kind of adventure? She asked, skeptical yet intrigued. Involves money, risks, secrets that could shatter lives. But you're going to need to trust me. Her mind spun with the weight of his proposition. This was madness. He was a stranger. A rich stranger who could snap his fingers and obliterate her existence like it was nothing. And yet, the thrill of possibility teased her. The thought of escaping her dull life was like a moth drawn to a flame. Trust you? She said incredulously. How do I know you're even who you say you are? But we both know you called me, he replied. And I do like to think fate has a funny way of bringing two people together for a reason. Fate. The word hung in the air. Was it fate that had her reaching for her phone in the dead of night? Or was it desperation? A wish for something, anything to pull her from the clutches of her mundane reality? What's the catch? She asked, steeling herself for whatever twisted proposal he was about to make. He paused long enough to make her stomach churn, then replied, You will have to meet me, Jess. Tomorrow. Midnight. The penthouse at the Edgewater. Trust me, the view will be worth it. Tomorrow? The word struck her like a lightning bolt. She had a job, a life, a safe little bubble that would pop just like that. But something inside her stirred a burning desire for more. For depth, for chaos. What if I say no? His laughter echoed like thunder, shaking her nerves. Then nothing changes. You'll wake up as the same girl you've always been. But remember, Jess, a life of safety can be lonely. The clock ticked away in the background of her mind. Safety or risk? Dull routine or life-changing adventure? As panic gripped her, she felt the seed of daring bloom inside her chest, battling against her fears. It's not about saying yes or no, she said, her voice steadying. It's about a choice. Exactly. And every choice has consequences, he replied, a hint of menace threading through his voice. Before Jess could respond, the line went dead. She blinked at the darkness, her heart racing. Tomorrow she'd face a choice that could rip her world apart or set her free. But deep down she feared she had already stepped off the precipice. What awaited her in that penthouse? The unknown loomed large, and she felt both terror and exhilaration mingling in the pit of her stomach. As she sank into her thoughts, a chilling realization washed over her. Once she opened this door, there would be no going back. What if the stranger wasn't he just a billionaire, but her biggest mistake? And just like that, Jess knew her life hung in the balance, all because of a random number dialed in the dead of night. What had she done? What lay ahead would be a thrilling gamble, and she was both terrified and eager to find out. Jess tossed and turned in bed. The sheets twisted around her like the confusion swirling in her mind. Midnight felt like 1,000 years away, and the weight of the stranger's proposal pressed down on her chest. Every tick of the clock echoed in the silence, a relentless reminder of the choice that loomed ahead. Her heart raced at the thought of arriving at the Edgewater penthouse. What if he was dangerous? The kind of man who toyed with people's lives like they were chess pieces? But another part of her pulsated with anticipation. This was her chance to escape the gray, drab existence. If she didn't take this risk, how many more moments would slip through her fingers? The moment a decision was made was the moment your life altered forever. She sat up suddenly, mind clear as she swiped her phone from the bedside table. Her fingers froze above the screen, hovering over the contacts. What was she even going to search for? His name? There was nothing but a void, no way to trace him, no identity to grasp. The room felt suffocating, a prison built around her uncertainty. What had she gotten herself into? Jess, a voice shouted from outside. It was her roommate, Carla. Are you awake? You're going to be late for work. A jolt of reality crashed in. But instead of the usual routine, she found herself flooded with agitation. She couldn't go on pretending everything was normal, but she would need to keep her game face on. Pretend. Just a minute. Jess called out, her voice unnaturally cheerful. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face. The reflection stared back, wide-eyed and wild, as if asking her the same question she battled with. What are you willing to risk? I'm going to make it work, she whispered, her resolve hardening. The day crawled by, each moment stretching her patience. She served customers with a smile while inside, her thoughts whirled with anticipation. When the clock struck 5, she felt herself stand a little taller. See you later, Carla chirped as she left, leaving Jess alone in the silence of the store. She glanced around, and for the first time the place felt too small, too stifling. She slipped out the back door, letting the cool evening air wash over her like a wave. Jess walked to her car, each step heavy with a mix of dread and excitement. What would she even wear? Dressed for her job, she felt out of place in jeans and a plain top. A smart black dress. That would do something to give her confidence. As she quickly changed at home, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The nerves constricted in her throat, and she nearly yanked on the dress. What if she showed up and he wasn't even there? Or worse, what if he was? Every scenario played out in her mind, dramatic and wild. She crammed her phone into her bag and stood in front of the mirror, breathing hard. Just a choice, she reminded herself, a choice that leads to something different. The car roared to life beneath her hands, pulling her into the night. With each mile that passed, she felt the weight of her decision. The city shone brightly, lights blurring together like stars out of reach. When she pulled up to the Edgewater, her breath caught in her throat. It loomed before her, a towering structure consolidating everything she'd been led to believe. Power, wealth, mystery. Jess took a breath, trembling with anxiety and excitement. Tonight would define everything. She slid out of the car and smoothed her dress, steeling her nerves, but just as she stepped inside, a pulse of danger ran through her. The elevator doors opened, a shadow spilling into the lobby. She recognized that tall, dark figure. The stranger. Her heart thundered. Did she have the courage to face him? Jess, he spoke, the smirk on his face twisting her insides. What was she getting herself into? A single heartbeat stretched into a lifetime as she stepped forward, locked in an uncertain fate with a man who could change her world or destroy it. And in that moment, Jess realized she was far from alone, and the risk might just be the beginning of a nightmare she never saw coming. What awaited them both in that penthouse? The elevator doors slid shut behind Jess with a soft but ominous thud, trapping her in a shallow space with the stranger. She could feel the heat radiating from him, intoxicating yet alarming, like standing too close to a fire. His dark eyes assessed her as though she were a puzzle he was eager to solve. Glad you made it, he said, his voice low and smooth, laced with an energy that sent shivers down her spine. I was beginning to worry that you wouldn't show. She stared back at him, searching for any hint of threat. Shadows danced across his features in the low light, masking the truth behind that alluring smirk. Why did you ask me to come? Her voice trembled, a mixture of thrill and terror curling around her words. He leaned closer, the scent of his cologne enveloping her like a warm whisper, as if they were the only two souls in the universe. I wanted to talk about your potential. The world is far bigger than you can imagine, Jess. The elevator jerked and then launched upward, a sudden surge of speed that made her stomach drop. Jess struggled to maintain her balance, gripping the polished metal railing behind her. My potential? She echoed, skepticism lacing her tone. What does that even mean? He straightened, watching her with an intensity that could ignite a fire. It means you have choices. You could be more than just a barista in a mundane coffee shop. You could have everything. Everything. The temptation whispered to her, almost seducing her into the idea. Yet there was an edge in his proposal, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. But at what cost? She asked quietly, her heart racing in rhythm with the ascent. He smiled, a glimmer of confidence flooding his features. Sometimes you have to pay a price to discover your true self. I'm offering you freedom from your predictable life. The elevator slowed, the specific ping of their floor sending a jolt through Jess. The doors opened to a hallway bathed in an ethereal light, a stark contrast to the gray life she was desperate to escape. With every step she took forward, the weight of decisions loomed larger. So what is it you want me to do? She asked, knowing full well that stepping into his world might mean losing herself in ways she couldn't control. His smirk returned, a glint of excitement sparking in his eyes. Meet me for dinner and we'll discuss a project I have in mind. You have skills that could prove valuable, but only if you're willing to take the leap. Every word pulled her in deeper, a siren-esque call dragging her from safety. What kind of project? She queried, her mind swirling with doubts. There are people who could use your creativity, ways to shake up what they think they know about themselves. You'd be getting a front row seat to an elite lifestyle. Interesting, right? Her thoughts raced back to her ordinary day, to customers who hardly noticed her, to the dim hopes she forced herself to hold. Was she ready to step into a world that felt as foreign as it was enticing? Here we are, he interrupted, opening a door that led to the heart of the penthouse. The expanse before her was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city, glittering like 1,000 shifting diamonds. But what's the catch? She pressed, narrowing her eyes, her apprehension battling the intrigue. He stepped inside, motioning for her to follow. Just one. He paused. You'll have to trust me, Jess. Fully. A chill slithered down her spine. Trust him? This man was a complete stranger. Yet, as the door clicked shut behind her, locking her into an intricate web of choices, Jess felt the gravity of the moment the decision would define her. Are you ready to find out just how far you're willing to go? He asked, the challenge hanging ominously in the air. In that instant, everything hung in balance, a question less about her journey and more about whether she would be able to return to who she was. The tension thickened, electrifying and suffocating all at once, and all Jess could think was, would she still be able to escape when the time came? The night had just begun, and she had no way of knowing how entwined her fate would soon become with the stranger standing before her. What was he truly offering, and what dark secrets lay hidden in the shadows of that penthouse? The air in the penthouse felt charged, heavy with the weight of unspoken promises and hidden dangers. Jess stood frozen in place, unsure whether to take a step forward or retreat back into the elevator. The lush surroundings were intoxicating, but the stranger's intent was shrouded in mystery. I one tea bite, he said, teasingly breaking the silence. He stepped into the room further, revealing more of the wealth contained in that space: a grand piano in one corner, modern art that leered and laughed from the walls, and a bar that glimmered with expensive liquors. Join me for a drink. It'll help ease your mind. Suddenly Jess felt the urge to flee. Yet something deep inside, an instinct she couldn't quite grasp, pulled her in. You could be deceiving me, she said, the courage in her voice barely masking her internal panic. Deceit is for the weak, he replied with a confident tilt of his head. I'm offering you a glimpse beyond the mundane. Are you really that scared of what might be? The real question lies in what you'll risk to find out. She hesitated, grappling with the thought of being just a barista forever versus being entangled with this man who exuded power and mystery. In their brief interaction, the promise of extraordinary loomed larger than her fears. Fine, she said, stepping into the room, needing to face what this situation demanded of her. I'll listen. But if I don't like it, I'm out. He raised an eyebrow, his excitement unmistakable. That's the spirit. Just remember, the decision to stay or go doesn't come without consequences. The words hung between them, an echo of warning against the backdrop of her curiosity. As he poured whiskey over ice, she let her gaze wander around the room. The view was breathtaking, but it felt like a facade that concealed far darker truths. He turned back, glass in hand, and offered it to her like a peace treaty. To new beginnings. Jess took the glass, the coolness seeping into her fingertips. What's the project? His expression shifted, solemn and serious. I want to unlock the barriers people build around their lives. You have a gift for seeing beyond the surface. Your creativity transforms the ordinary. She swallowed hard, the liquid burning her throat as she tried to process his words. How? What do you expect from me? He leaned closer, an intensity igniting in his dark eyes. Picture it. Taking ordinary lives and flipping them upside down. You'd be my partner in redesigning their realities. A chance to rewrite narratives. The thrill of the idea sent a tidal wave of warmth flowing through her, but the nagging doubts clawed at her stomach. And what's in it for you? Let us just say I crave chaos as much as order. I need someone like you, he admitted, a flash of something unsettling flickering across his face. The riskier the challenge, the better the reward. A part of her wanted to shy away, to escape this twisted world of intrigues, but she felt the line blurring between fear and excitement. Could she really be part of something so grand? The sudden sound of a phone vibrating across the polished surface of the bar shattered her thoughts. The stranger's gaze flickered briefly toward it, and Jess caught the urgency in his shift. Answer it, he said, as if sensing the currents of her uncertainty. Is it yours? She asked, skeptical. Doesn't matter. Just pick it up. It might change everything. She glanced at the phone. A number she didn't recognize flashed across the screen. An urge to ignore it fought with a growing curiosity. What if this was a secret waiting to break free, just like she craved to? Jess, sometimes the calls we don't expect hold the keys to our fate. His eyes held her like a strobe light cutting through FON that moment. The phone rang again, its insistent tone beckoning with a siren call. She took a shaky breath, her heart pounding as she made the decision. Who was on the other end? What did they want? And as she reached for the phone, the weight of her choice loomed large, a life-altering moment waiting to unfurl. Her finger hovered over the screen, the tension thick enough to slice. She could feel the stranger's gaze on her, an electric buzz filling the space between them. It was just a phone call, yet it felt monumental, like stepping off a ledge into an abyss of uncertainty. Do it, he urged softly, coaxing her with a smile that danced on the edge of mischief. You know you want to. With a deep inhalation, Jess pressed the green button. The call connected with an abrupt beep, and silence washed over the room, interrupted only by the distant hum of the city outside. Her heart raced, each beat growing louder in her ears. Hello? A woman's voice broke through the quiet, laced with an urgency that sent chills down Jess's spine. Hi. Jess stumbled over her words, feeling her confidence crack like glass. I received a call from this number. Listen carefully, the woman interrupted, her tone clipped. You're in danger. You need to get out now. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Jess glanced at the stranger, whose expression had morphed from intrigue to alertness. He abruptly leaned into the phone, taking over the conversation. Who is this? Not your concern, the woman snapped, unyielding. The man in front of you is not who he says he is. You must leave. They know your name, Jess. A tightness gripped her throat. What do you mean? Who knows my name? Jess, he said gently but with a firm authority. You don't have to listen to her. She's playing games. Games? The woman's voice dripped with scorn. You think I'm playing games? This is serious. Get away from him before it's too late. The enormity of her words echoed in Jess's mind, pushing aside her fluttering excitement and replacing it with stark terror. She swung her gaze back to the stranger, who was now eyeing her with a predatory intensity. Jess, don't be foolish, he said, his tone icy, a chill creeping into the air. This is your moment. Don't let her derail it. Why should I believe you? She shot back, trembling under the weight of the decision. The warmth she had felt moments before now felt like a distant memory. A cruel joke played on her senses. Because you value your future, don't you? He replied, his voice dripping with charm. We can make this something spectacular. Or you can run an ordinary life, hiding from fears that don't even exist. The woman's voice broke through again. Jess, your life is at stake. The project he has in mind isn't just about creativity. Goes deeper. It involves things you don't want to get entangled in. Panic clawed at Jess as conflicting emotions wrestled within her. She clutched her phone tighter as if it were an anchor to reality. The choice burned in her chest. Was she ready to risk everything for a chance at something extraordinary? Or was her life indeed dangling by a thread? Jess, the man said, softer now, yet still commanding. Don't let fear cloud your judgment. This could be your best chance. Her heart raced louder than the chaos in her mind. The truth was like oil in water, repelling her from one moment while drawing her to another. If I leave, what then? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Then you might never know what you're capable of, he replied smoothly, but the threat lingered beneath his polished words. Outside, the city lights flickered like uncertain stars, and she stood at the crossroads of her fate. What if her decision changed everything? A silence settled, thick and suffocating, as she weighed her options. Then the phone's speaker crackled again. Jess, time is running out. Choose wisely. An unwanted urgency clawed at her. She had to decide. What would she risk to shape her own reality? Before she could respond, the line went dead, leaving her with a haunting emptiness, and as the silence enveloped her, Jess knew the moment was upon her, the chaotic blend of ambition and dread spinning around her like a whirlwind, forcing her to confront a truth she was terrified to embrace. The stranger smiled, a mix of challenge and invitation. She could step forward into the dark or pull away into the safety of the known. Each option loomed, promising drastic consequences. The question now was simple. Which path would she choose? Something twisted in Jess's stomach, like a coiled serpent ready to strike. As the silence thickened, it felt as if the walls of the room were closing in, engulfing her in a claustrophobic haze. The stranger's eyes bore into hers, his expression a perplexing puzzle of curiosity and possessiveness. "Jess," he said, his voice smooth yet edged with urgency. "You're wasting precious time." She took a shaky step backward, instinctively backing away from the unknown man, the weight of his presence becoming suffocating. One part of her screamed to run, while another yearned for the thrilling promise of what lay ahead. Then, just as she was about to turn away, a loud crash echoed from the hallway outside the apartment, sharp and jarring. Jess jumped, her heart leaping into her throat as she instinctively glanced toward the door. Her pulse quickened, and for a fraction of a second, she saw fear mirrored in the stranger's eyes. "Go," he hissed, urgency spilling into every word. "No," she protested, anchoring her ground. "You have to tell me what's happening." But he was already moving, glancing nervously toward the source of the noise. The moment stretched, pulsating with an intense energy. Jess felt the tight grip of dread. Was it too late to backtrack? The woman's warning zipped through her mind like a lightning bolt. Was he a danger? Another hard thud sounded, followed by hurried footsteps. Adrenaline surged through her veins, forcing her to make a split-second decision. She needed to act fast. With one final look into the stranger's enigmatic eyes, Jess bolted towards the door, grasped the handle and yanked it open. She stumbled into the hallway, the dim light flickering above adding to her disorientation. Fear clawed at her legs, urging her to run, to disappear from whatever nightmare had just begun. But then instinct kicked in. She hesitated, twisting her neck to look back, hoping for some sign from him, an indication that staying or leaving was the right call. To her surprise, the stranger stood frozen, his face a canvas of mixed emotions. He mouthed something, words lost in the chaos of the moment. But it didn't matter. Jess felt the world spinning. She sprinted down the corridor, every heartbeat pounding in her ears. The exit loomed ahead, a beacon of hope amid her escalating panic. She dug her hand into her pocket, clutching the phone like a lifeline, ready to call for help if she needed to. But as she reached for the door, a figure appeared at the end of the hallway, a silhouette emerging from shadows, menacing and unfamiliar. Jess's breath hitched, and her grip on the phone faltered. The figure advanced, and with every step it took, a new wave of terror washed over her. She was trapped between the opening she had sought and the heart of the darkened corridor. "Jess, run!" the stranger shouted from behind her, his voice urgent and raw. At that moment, she felt the weight of every choice she had made, every possibility swirling around her like a storm. Before her lay a door to safety, a chance to escape, but behind her was a chaos that promised answers, a temptation that beckoned her to stay. Desperation clawed at her. Jess turned and ran, not knowing which fate lay in wait, but knowing she had to escape the unknown darkness that threatened to entangle her. As she pushed through the door, she glanced back once more, locking eyes with the stranger whose intentions remained shrouded in mystery. Heart pounding, she burst into the night, a cacophony of noises engulfing her senses, a pulse of city life that felt both invigorating and terrifying. But before she could catch her breath, something wet splattered across her cheek, and with alarm she reached up to touch it. Dread filled her as she pulled away her hand, rubies glistening under the city lights. It wasn't rain. "Jess," a voice echoed above the chaos. She spun around, fear racing to the forefront of her mind. Just who was it that truly held power in this unfolding nightmare? Every shred of doubt clawed at her, forcing her to question her choices, her integrity, and the dark shadows lurking in her past. In that pulse-quickening moment, a new thought emerged. Could she trust anyone in this labyrinth of deception? With the city buzzing around her, Jess knew she was in too deep to turn back. Time was running out, and she had to uncover the truth before it consumed everything she held dear. And just as she thought she caught a glimpse of who was pursuing her, the ground shook beneath her, shifting her focus entirely. What else lay hidden in the darkness of her decisions? Jess's heart raced as she turned, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The figure loomed closer, a shadow shrouded in menace. The dim streetlights cast elongated shadows that twisted into nightmares on the pavement. She couldn't tell who they were or what they wanted, but the fear coiling inside her like a snake urged her to move. With the voice of urgency still echoing in her mind, she sprinted down the sidewalk, her shoes striking the concrete with quick, panicked steps. The city was alive around her. The sounds of traffic, late-night laughter and distant bars, and the low murmur of conversations created a surreal backdrop to her chaos. But she couldn't focus on anything but the pounding of her heart and the creeping sense of dread that gripped her. "Just wait." That haunting shout surged through the night, and she hesitated for a split second, the cacophony around her fading as she turned back toward where she had come. The stranger, he was still there, and he looked desperate, eyes wide and burning in the dark, but the menacing figure behind her didn't pause. Footsteps echoed in pursuit, a chilling reminder that danger lingered just behind. Jess's instincts kicked in. Flight was her only option. She clutched her phone tighter, the device suddenly feeling like both a weapon and a weight. She struggled to catch her breath as she veered left down a narrow alley, hoping to lose whoever was on her tail. Cold sweat broke out on her brow as she pressed deeper into the alley, the walls closing in around her. Shadowy figures danced on the walls, and a bar's neon sign flickered eerily in the distance. She could hear the footsteps behind her, a deep thumping rhythm that echoed the panic in her chest. "Jess, please," it was the stranger again, his voice reaching her through the din of her own terror. "You have to trust me." Trust? How could she trust anyone right now? Yet, there was something in his tone, a mixture of fear and urgency that tugged at her instincts. Then she heard it, another crash, this time even closer, so loud it reverberated through her bones. Her heart sank as she realized there was no time to rationalize. The figure pursuing her was impossible to see in the darkness, but the fear in her gut told her they were gaining on her. She stumbled out of the alley and back into the street, her gaze frantically scanning for help. People passed by, blissfully unaware of the terror enveloping her. She felt so alone. A sharp scream pierced the air, causing heads to turn and faces to shift into expressions of horror. It wasn't just the siren call of danger anymore, it was chaos. "Jess," the stranger shouted, his voice breaking through the tumult. "Now, this way." He stood at the end of the street, beckoning her with urgency that crackled in the air. Ice gripped her spine. Was he truly trying to save her? Or was he another player in this horrifying game? The pounding footsteps grew louder. She had mere seconds to decide. With a final nod to the unknown, Jess bolted toward him, her lungs burning as she sprinted under the lights. Just as she reached him, the ground shook again, and this time it felt like the world was caving in, threatening to swallow her. Whole power surged as an explosion rocked the street, sending her sprawling into the stranger's arms. The blinding light engulfed them both, illuminating his chiseled features and eyes that burned with urgency and something more. "Now we have to move," he exclaimed, yanking her to her feet. The chaos blurred around them, and she felt the gravity of her choices. With the shock still reeling in her mind, she peered back down the dark corridor of her choices, a promise of safety in the arms of a stranger who may very well harbor the answers she needed. But just as swiftly, Jess knew that now she walked a razor-thin line between salvation and danger. What awaited them just around the corner? Where the real secrets lay hidden? The night was far from over. The blast knocked Jess off her feet, and the world spun around her like a dizzying whirlpool. Shards of light flickered in her vision, and all she could hear was the ringing in her ears that drowned out the chaos. She fought to focus on the stranger, who gripped her tightly, his expression a mixture of urgency and concern. "Stay close," he shouted, pulling her back into the throat of the alley just as the remaining glass shattered and debris rained down. The sounds of panic erupted through the street. Screams, sirens, and the grinding of metal on concrete pierced the air. Jess's heart thudded loudly in her chest, drowning out everything else. She looked up at him, desperation pooling in her gut. What happened? Who was that? "Not now. We need to get to safety." His voice was firm, but she caught the tremor in it, a flaw in his otherwise composed facade. They squeezed through the tight space between two buildings, the air thick with the scent of smoke and something metallic. "No, I can't just run without knowing." Jess felt the sting of betrayal in her chest. Trust had been shattered the moment a stranger had materialized as her supposed savior. "Do you think I'm leading you into danger?" He shot back, urgency spilling into irritation. But the flicker of fear in his eyes told her this was far more than a simple chase. "They aren't just after you, they want something from me too." She froze, her heart clenching. "Why? Who are you?" "There's no time." He pulled her further away from the street where chaos reigned. "I'm Lucas. And if they catch us, we're both dead." The name felt heavy on her tongue, like it held a secret she hadn't been privy to. But she had no choice. She followed him still, propelled by sheer instinct and a flicker of hope that somehow he knew a way out. They emerged into a parking lot filled with old cars and shadows. Lucas scanned the area, his muscles taut with tension. "We can't stay here long. Get in." He gestured towards an inconspicuous sedan parked under flickering lights. "Do you think they've found us already?" She pushed into the passenger seat, her mind racing as the doors clicked shut behind her. "I hope not," he hissed under his breath, slid in beside her, and turned the ignition quickly. The car roared to life, but the tension hung in the air thick as dread. As they sped down the deserted street, Jess peered out the window, haunted by the chaos that had erupted just moments before. A bizarre mix of adrenaline and terror twisted in her stomach. "What do they want from you?" Lucas's jaw clenched. "It's complicated." He darted a glance at her, and for the first time, she saw concern beneath his bravado. "You shouldn't be involved in this." "But I am." The weight of the night pressed down on her equally heavy. "If I didn't trust you just now, I'd probably be," he interrupted her, a sudden urgency sparking in his eyes. "Someone's following us." The car behind them surged forward. Jess's breath caught in her throat. The blaring of headlights filled the rearview mirror, and she saw shadowy figures in the backseat, menacing silhouettes painted against a backdrop of blaring red and blue lights. "Just hold on," Lucas barked, swerving sharply around a corner, tires screeching against asphalt. And that gut-wrenching moment, Jess felt a wave of doubt crash over her. Was this the ally she had hoped for? Or was the darkness around them thickening with people who wore masks too well? "What did I get myself into?" she whispered, fear echoing through her thoughts. But before Lucas could answer, a deafening crash split the air. The car jolted violently as something slammed into them from behind, sending Jess sprawling against the window. The world spun out of control, revealing nothing but an engulfing abyss. And in that beat of silence before everything went dark, she whispered a single question. Who was really the enemy? What awaited Jess and Lucas as the veil of danger deepened? The world slipped into oblivion, darkness consuming Jess as the void wrapped around her like a thick fog. When she finally blinked her eyes open, a flickering light greeted her, harsh and jarring against the remnants of her fading consciousness. Pain pulsed in her skull, and she instinctively reached for her head, only to find that her wrists were bound. Panic surged through her as she struggled to comprehend her surroundings. Just a familiar voice broke through the haze, steady and reassuring. Lucas stood before her, his expression a blend of worry and determination. He crouched beside her, his hands gently brushing the ropes that bound her. "You're safe. You need to stay calm." Safe. The word felt foreign against the backdrop of dread clawing at her heart. All those flashes of chaos, the explosion, the menacing figures. What happened? "There was a crash," he said, glancing around as if to ensure no one lurked nearby. "They got us. I've been trying to protect you, but they're persistent." The vulnerability in his voice made her stomach twist. Was he as much a captive as she was? "This was all your fault." The words slipped from her lips before she could catch them. "You brought me into this." Her anger came hot and untamed, a dagger of fear thrusting through the barrier they built. "I trusted you." "The danger hasn't lessened, Jess," he pressed, his voice rising slightly. "I'm not your enemy. They are." As her heart raced, Jess examined their surroundings, dimly lit, barely decorated, as if the room had been constructed hastily. A flickering fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead, illuminating the dank concrete walls. It was a hideout, temporary and deserted, a far cry from the luxury of the penthouse. "Then what do they want?" she demanded, her voice laced with defiance yet edged with fear. "What happens now?" He inhaled deeply. "They want information. I've been involved in things that put a target on my back against powerful people, and you've been caught in the crossfire." Jess felt a chill run down her spine. The pieces began clicking together. She was entwined in a game she had not signed up for. "And how do we get out?" she asked, urgency rising as adrenaline butchered her panic. Lucas met her gaze, determination radiating from his sharp features. "I have a plan, but you have to trust me completely." She wanted to scoff, to roll her eyes in bitterness at how foolish she had been. Instead, her heart betrayed her, fluttering delicately against the steel in his tone. "I'll trust you." Her words came out unsteady, unsure but necessary. But you'll need to get these ropes off me first. He nodded, moving to work on the bindings just as a door slammed open, the sound echoing ominously through the small space. Jess immediately froze, her gaze darting to the entrance. Two figures stepped inside, shrouded in shadows, faces obscured. "Welcome," one of the figures said, smirking as they stepped into the flickering bulb light. Jess felt her breath hitch in her throat. "Looks like we've got our missing guest. Who are you?" Lucas demanded, quickly standing in front of Jess, his stance protective. The figure chuckled, the sound dripping with mockery. "You don't need to know who we are. Just understand that you're in over your heads. Let us go." Jess shouted, the fear morphing into anger. "You have no right." "Oh, but we do." The figure's smile widened menacingly. "We merely want to know what Lucas was planning. And once we're done, you can return to your little life. No harm done. Unless, of course, you resist." Lucas stepped forward, rage sparking in his eyes. "You'll never get what you want. You'll see." Suddenly, the second figure lunged forward, grabbing Jess. "Start talking, Lucas, or she pays the price for your secrets." Her heart raced and she thrashed in panic, trying to propel herself free. In that split second, Lucas's stare locked onto hers, an unspoken bond perfectly clear. It was a moment of understanding deeper than any words could express. "Jess, listen," he began, but the other figure tightened their grip, the threat tangible in the air like a heavy weight. "No," she screamed, adrenaline surging as she summoned every ounce of strength. Jess kicked out, striking the figure's knee, and they stumbled back. Lucas seized the opportunity, his bound hands gripping a heavy metal object lying abandoned on the floor, swinging it with precision. It struck the adversary's head, and they crumpled to the ground with a thud. The other figure turned, shock replacing venom in their gaze. "You'll regret this," they shouted, retreating back toward the door. "Jess now!" Lucas screamed, adrenaline sending her heart racing. They dashed for the exit, stepping over the fallen figure on the floor and bursting through the door. Outside, the world greeted them with the sharp chill of night air and chaos. An alley sprawled before them, littered with shadows under the dim streetlights. There was no time to think. They ran, their footsteps pounding against the pavement, as they slipped into the urban maze that felt like both salvation and uncertainty. "Where do we go?" Jess gasped, her heart pounding as they turned corner after corner into the darkened streets. "We need to find somewhere safe," Lucas shouted, determination pulsing through him. "They're not far behind. Just keep moving." As they sprinted deeper into the night, Jess felt the weight of everything transforming the fear, the panic morphing into raw determination. She had chosen this path by dialing that random number. She had taken a risk, and now she would face whatever came next head-on. But as the roar of pursuing figures echoed through the alley, she locked eyes with Lucas, a blend of fear and understanding rushing through her. She was no longer just a girl looking for an escape. She was becoming a fighter. In that fleeting moment, one thing was clear: they would face this together or perish trying. They surged forward into the unknown as shadows loomed behind them, ready to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. Jess steeled her resolve, a fire lighting within her. The night might be long, but she was ready to turn it into a battleground where she would rewrite her own story once and for all. And she would not back down. As hope flickered like a beacon in the chaos, they raced into the night, fighting for their freedom against all odds. Now, what would be the next move in their game? Do you want to know what happens next? You need to subscribe now and hit that bell icon, so you don't miss the next exclusive story that's coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and trust me, it really helps the channel grow. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your theories and reactions. What do you think is going to happen next? Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support the channel and join our growing community. Let us take this journey together.